I lay so still I could hear the clock downstairs ticking through the floor. Ethan knelt by our bedroom window and worked a thin pry bar under the seam of a floorboard, easing it up like he'd practiced 100 times. Phone light washed his face the color of ice. He lifted out a metal box, shoebox-sized, dented along one edge, and opened it with almost tender care. Inside rubber-banded cash photographs of women who weren't me and multiple passports with his face and different names. I'd pretended to drink the tea. I'd pretended to sleep. But nothing could prepare me for the smile on his lips as he put my life in order like paperwork. My name is Avery Collins, and if you'd asked me 6 years ago who my husband was, I would have told you he was the man who learned how I took my coffee after our second date, the one who kissed the top of my head when we crossed streets, the one who never forgot to lock the back door. People like that don't have metal boxes hidden beneath the bedroom floor. People like that don't drug their wives' tea. That Tuesday had been ordinary in all the visible ways. The sky over Denver went gold, then gray. I answered emails too late. My friend Jenna texted me memes and a drink water reminder. When I got home, Ethan had music low on the kitchen speaker and a skillet going garlic and butter, so the house smelled like someplace safe. He glanced up when I walked in, smile quick practiced. "Hey you," he said. "Rough day?" "The kind you can feel in your molars," I said, leaning on the counter. He chuckled, kissed my cheek, and turned back to the stove. His hands moved efficiently, as if everything was measured in advance, the way he liked his life. Tidy, controlled, sealed. I told him about a client who kept changing their mind. He nodded at the right places, said the right things. On another night, I might have believed he was listening. At 9, like always, he set the kettle. The blue ceramic mug he swore made tea taste better waited in its spot. I watched his profile in the window, a man making something warm for the woman he loved. I held that picture in one hand, and in the other, the bitter aftertaste I'd noticed for weeks. Chamomile and honey shouldn't sting. He slid the mug across the island. "Extra honey," he said. "You look like you need it." His voice was light, but something in his eyes flickered anticipation maybe, or calculation. I curled my hands around the heat. Steam lifted the floral smell soft, familiar, and underneath that whisper of pharmacy. I brought the mug to my lips and let the liquid kiss my tongue barely. There it was, the chemical twinge I'd been gaslighting myself about. My heart thudded. I made a show of blowing on the surface. "Hot," I said. "Drink." "While it's nice," he urged and leaned his elbows on the counter like a man settling in to watch a campfire. I sipped almost imperceptibly, letting the tea wet my lips while I counted the seconds in the quiet kitchen. When he stood to grab his phone, I lifted the mug again, tipped it toward my mouth, and swallowed just enough to play the part. A shiver moved through me. "I'm going to wash my face," I said, casual as I could make it. "Finish your tea," he said without looking up. "You'll sleep better." "I will," I lied. In the hallway bathroom, I shut the door and turned the faucet to cover the sound as I poured the mug down the sink, honey sticking in slow amber threads before the water pulled it away. I refilled the mug with warm tap water stirred and took a breath until my hands stopped shaking. In the mirror, my face looked like mine-tired 29 salt of mascara dusting under one eye. But my eyes were someone else's, a woman who was about to step out onto ice. Back in the kitchen, I set the mug down, lips glossed with steam. "Better," I said, and let him see me tip it up. His mouth twitched. "Atta girl." I hated the way those words landed in my chest like a leash. I went upstairs early, leaving our bedroom door slightly ajar. I turned my phone to silent, slid it under my pillow, and lay on my side facing the window, practicing the even inhale-exhale of deep sleep. The house settled around me. Pipes clicked. The furnace hummed. The neighbor's dog barked twice and then gave up. At 10:28, the TV downstairs clicked off. Footsteps on the stairs, slow and even. Ethan paused in the doorway so long I started to count knots in the wood baseboard to stop myself from twitching. "Avery," he whispered. "No movement. Avery. Closer now." A brush of air as he leaned over me. the faintest smell of his aftershave, and the tea he hadn't drunk. A thumb lifted my eyelid. I kept my gaze rolled back to white, a trick I'd read on some survival thread I never thought I'd need. He watched me a beat longer, then withdrew. He didn't get into bed. His steps went to the office and back to the guest room and back as if he were taking inventory of the house. I lay there cataloging sounds, attaching each to a room in my head. At midnight, the bedroom door creaked wider. Ethan crossed to the far wall near the window, the corner that never took a rug, because I like the hardwood bare, he'd once said. A soft, scrape metal against wood. Then another. I risked a slit of vision. He was kneeling, shoulders hunched, breath controlled, like a safecracker in a movie. He worked a thin pry bar under the narrow gap and levered up a board, then another. He folded them back gently, as if the floor had a hinge. From the cavity, he lifted a metal box, military green, scarred at one corner. He placed it on the floor between his knees, pressed a thumb to each latch, and opened it. Even in the low spill of light from the hall and the blue of his phone flashlight, I could see enough. Money stacked tight with rubber bands. A sheaf of passports, 5-6, all with his face looking slightly to one side. Hair longer in one, beard in another. Names I couldn't make out. Photographs, a dozen, at least, women in business clothes, in running gear, at grocery carts, all caught midlife. Candid and unaware. A heat rose in my throat I had to swallow down without moving. He took out one passport and held it beside his phone, comparing. He smiled. Not the shy, crooked thing I'd fallen for, but something sharp and pleased and cold. The smile of a man who'd arranged each piece exactly where he wanted it. Something fragile in me cracked without making a sound. Ethan slid everything back with the same carefulness, rebanded the cash nested. The passport squared the photograph's edges like a stack of receipts. The box went back into the dark. The board settled with a small sigh. He palmed the pry bar, wiped it with a cloth, and tucked it into the guest room closet on his way out. He returned to stand over me again, a silhouette in the doorway's light. "Sleep, Av," he whispered, soft as a lullaby. "Big week." My skin went cold. When his weight finally dented the mattress beside me, I kept breathing, my false even breath, counting each rise and fall until his turned steady. The ceiling fan ticked. Somewhere in the city, a siren drew a straight red line through the night and faded. I did not sleep. I lay there rehearsing sentences, tasting them in my mouth. "Jenna, I think Ethan is drugging me." "Detective, I need help." "Mom, please don't panic." Each sentence felt like opening a door I couldn't close again. But another truth pressed harder. Pretending would not save me. The tea had a purpose. The box had a plan. And whatever Ethan was, he was a man who kept timelines. When the first light grayed the edges of the blinds, I still hadn't moved. Ethan's alarm buzzed. He stretched, kissed my hair, and said, "I'll bring coffee." His voice was morning sweet, rehearsed. Downstairs, the kettle clicked. Water sang. The mug waited in its spot. My hands were steady when I reached for my phone under the pillow. I didn't have proof that would convince anyone, yet only a heartbeat full of ice and a memory of a smile. But proof could be made. Tonight, I thought, record everything. And then, tell Jenna. After that, the police. He walked back up with coffee and a grin. "You look tired," he said, setting the mug down on my nightstand. "I didn't sleep great," I answered. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. He brushed my forehead with his lips. "You will tonight." I smiled back, small and careful, and thought, not if I can help it. The coffee tasted normal. Rich, nutty, exactly. The blend I'd picked out from the farmer's market 2 months ago. That was the cruelest part. It was never every drink. It was never every night. It was enough to blur the line between paranoia and reality until I didn't trust my own tongue. He sat across from me, scrolling his phone like any other husband checking the weather, the news, the score of a game he pretended to care about. "What's on your agenda today?" he asked without looking up. I smiled thinly. Meetings, reports, a client call at 3. "Busy, girl." He glanced up and gave me that practiced grin, the one that made waitresses think we were the cute couple with inside jokes. He tucked his phone away, leaned forward, and touched my hand. His thumb brushed over my skin like he was memorizing a fingerprint. Don't push yourself too hard. The words were sweet, the tone tender. But now, with the image of that box seared into me, every syllable felt like code. Don't push yourself too hard, because I need you pliant. Because I need you predictable. Because if you go digging, you'll ruin everything. I nodded. I won't. At work, I barely heard my own voice on the client call. My mind replayed last night in endless loops, the creak of floorboards, the pale glow of his face, the flicker of satisfaction when he held those passports. My fingers hovered over my keyboard, tempted to type spouse secret identities into Google like some desperate teenager. But the reality was sharper. This wasn't the kind of story you found on a forum thread. This was the kind of story you ended up in the paper for if you were lucky. During lunch, I called Jenna. She answered on the second ring, chipper background noise of her twins fighting over a tablet. Avery, tell me you're free Friday. I need wine and gossip. My throat closed. The office hummed around me. A copy machine whirred. Someone laughed 2 cubicles away. I lowered my voice. Jenna, I think Ethan is hiding something. Like, serious. A pause. The twins' argument dimmed as if she'd walked into another room. Define serious. Affairs serious or felony serious? I shut my eyes. Both, maybe. I stopped. How could I explain without sounding insane? I found proof. Passports, money, pictures of women. Jesus. Her voice flattened, a different Jenna now. Not meme sharing. Jenna, not Friday wine Jenna. The Jenna who once drove me to urgent care at 2 a.m. when I had food poisoning. The one who knew when to laugh and when not to. Do you feel safe? I don't know, I whispered. Then you're not, she said. That's your answer. I wanted to tell her everything. About the tea. About the way he tested my eyelids like checking a mannequin. About the smile that didn't belong to the man I married. But the words stuck like stones in my throat. I'm going to get proof. Tonight. Avery, I'll call you tomorrow. I hung up before I lost my nerve. That evening, Ethan was home before me, chopping vegetables like the portrait of domesticity. He kissed my temple, asked about my day, made jokes about my boss's obsession with fonts. Normal, normal, normal. If not for the memory of that box, I might have laughed. I might have believed. That was the most terrifying part, how easy it was to fall back into the rhythm. After dinner, he poured the wine. He always poured mine, first a neat half glass enough to help me relax. I watched the liquid swirl ruby under the lights. Did he dose this too, or only the tea? I smiled, lifted it, and let the rim touch my lips without swallowing. His eyes followed the glass. You're distracted, he said. Work stuff, I lied. Too many reports. He leaned back, studying me with a softness that made my skin crawl. You've been tired lately. I worry about you. That was when the mask slipped just a fraction, just a blink, but I saw it. A glint of calculation under concern. He wasn't worried about me. He was worried about control, about the edges of his plan, fraying if I didn't play along. I set my glass down. I'm fine, I said firmly. Really? He nodded as if appeased. But I noticed the way his jaw tightened, the way his fingers drummed once on the table before stilling. He was measuring me. He always was. When bedtime came, I excused myself to shower. Steam filled the bathroom, fogging the mirror. I sat on the edge of the tub with my phone in my hand, heart hammering, and hit record. I whispered everything. The tea, the box, the passports, the photographs. I described the smell of the room, the scrape of the pry bar, the exact way his smile looked. If he killed me, I wanted something left behind. Proof, not just a suspicion. I saved the recording, uploaded it to the cloud, and tucked my phone deep under the folded towels. My hands trembled as I joined him in bed. Tonight, I told myself. Tonight I would watch. Tonight I would not close my eyes. But when his arm slid around my waist, when his breath warmed the back of my neck, a sickening thought crept in. What if he already knew? What if he was only letting me play along until it amused him to stop? Sleep never came. Only the endless tick of the clock and the weight of his arm heavy as a shackle. At some point in the gray hours before dawn, I slipped out from under his arm and padded to the kitchen. The silence pressed like a hand over my mouth. The fridge's hum was deafening. I poured myself water, gulped it down, and tried not to imagine traces of powder swirling in every liquid. My eyes burned from lack of sleep. My mind felt frayed, but underneath the fear, a sharper instinct pulsed. Find the truth before it's too late. That morning, Ethan was all warmth again, kissing my cheek, brewing coffee, humming some old tune like a man with nothing to hide. But now, I caught things I had missed before. The way he glanced at my mug as though calculating how much I drank. The way his smile lasted a second too long, as if he were waiting for me to break. "Don't forget dinner tomorrow," he reminded me. "That new client of mine. You'll love him. He's charming." I nodded. Of course. But my mind screamed. What client? What dinner? He hadn't mentioned this before. And since when did my husband have clients? Ethan worked in logistics, shipping, supply chain spreadsheets. The kind of job no one ever asked about because the answer was boring. Only now, it didn't sound boring at all. It sounded like the perfect cover. At work, I searched public records, shipping manifests, anything tied to his company. My fingers shook over the keyboard as I scrolled through line after line of codes and invoices, and then I saw it, an unfamiliar name, listed as a client, tied to multiple overseas shipments. Shipments labeled with vague terms, agricultural equipment, household goods. Only the weights didn't match. A crate marked for tableware shouldn't weigh as much as a car. I jotted the name Viktor Kozlov. A chill raced through me. Even whispered it sounded dangerous. I called Jenna again on my lunch break, my voice barely above a hiss. "I think he's moving something. For someone bad." The name Kozlov came up. Jenna swore under her breath. "Avery, that's Russian mob territory. You need to go to the police. And say what that my husband makes me sleepy at night and keeps a box of money, they'll think I'm hysterical. I need proof." "You're playing with fire." "I don't have a choice," I said. "If I stay quiet, I'm just another one of his lies. If I run, he'll find me. Proof is the only way out." That night, I staged my plan. I told Ethan I'd stay late finishing a project. Instead, I parked 3 blocks away and doubled back to the house on foot. My pulse thundered as I slid the key into the lock, praying he hadn't changed it. The door clicked open. The house was too neat, too staged, like a showroom. I went straight to the crawl space. My knees scraped against wood as I pried the box free again. This time, I took everything, the passports, the stacks of bills, the photographs. I shoved them into a tote bag and snapped pictures on my phone. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped it. One photo made me freeze. A picture of me. Not smiling, not candid, but sitting at my desk at work, shot through the blinds. Someone had been watching me. The breath tore out of my lungs. It wasn't just Ethan's double life, it was mine too, mapped, cataloged, surveilled. I shoved the photo back, stuffed the box in place, and slipped out just as headlights swept across the driveway. Ethan walked in, whistling a takeout bag swinging from his hand. Surprise, pad thai. I forced a smile, throat dry. "You're home early." "They canceled on me. Guess I get to spend the evening with my favorite girl instead." He kissed me, set the bag down, and began unpacking cartons. And just like that, I was trapped at the dinner table, again chopsticks in hand, pretending to chew as he asked about my day. My tote bag sat by the door, heavy with secrets, heavy with evidence that could kill me if he knew it was missing. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, and excused himself to take the call in the hall. His voice dropped low, urgent. Foreign syllables bled through the walls. Russian, maybe. Definitely not logistics. I chewed mechanically, eyes darting to my tote. My skin prickled. Any second he could walk back in and see it bulging, see me sweating, see the truth. But he returned, calm smiling again, slipping the mask back on like it had never cracked. Sorry about that. Work emergency. You understand. And for the first time, I didn't nod. I didn't reassure him. I just met his eyes steady, knowing. Because now I understood too. That night, lying beside him, I listened to the rhythm of his breathing. My mind ran through contingencies, where to hide the evidence, who to trust, when to run. But above all, one thought pulsed with every beat of my heart. I was sleeping next to a man who didn't exist. I didn't sleep. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. Every rustle of fabric felt like a hand reaching for me. By dawn, my decision was made. I had to secure the evidence somewhere Ethan would never think to look. At lunch that day, I met Jenna in the back corner of a coffee shop. The steam from my untouched latte rose like a veil between us. I slid the tote across the table, heart hammering. "Lock this up," I whispered. "Somewhere safe. If anything happens to me." Jenna pushed it back. "Avery, you're not dying in some spy thriller. We need the cops." "They won't believe me yet. But if you hold on to this, then at least someone knows the truth." She scanned my face, saw I wouldn't budge, and finally tucked the tote under her chair. "Fine, but you're on borrowed time." Borrowed time. The words stuck like burrs in my brain as I drove home. That evening, Ethan announced the client dinner had been rescheduled. "Tomorrow night," he said. "You'll look beautiful, I'm sure." His eyes lingered, appraising me like an ornament he planned to display. I nodded stiffly, wondering if tomorrow night was a business dinner or a trap. After he fell asleep, I crept back to his office. The air smelled faintly of leather and printer ink. My hands trembled as I pulled open drawers. Receipts, contracts, nothing explosive. But then, beneath a stack of shipping invoices, I found a thin folder, marked only with a single letter, K. Inside were photographs. Grainy, zoomed-in shots of men meeting at docks, exchanging briefcases. One face appeared again and again, the same man from the shipping records, Victor Kozlov. I snapped photos with my phone, slid the folder back exactly as I'd found it, and tiptoed out. My skin crawled. Ethan wasn't just working with these people, he was documenting them. Why insurance blackmail? I couldn't ask, and I couldn't risk waiting. The next morning, Jenna called in a panic. "Avery, someone followed me." "What, who?" "I don't know." Black SUV, tinted windows. I parked 3 blocks from my place and walked circles before going home. I think I lost them. But Avery, they know. My blood turned to ice. If Jenna was being watched, the evidence wasn't safe with her either. "Bring it back to me," I said quickly. "I'll figure out where to stash it." "You're insane," she hissed. "You're living with the guy who—" "Exactly," I cut her off. "Which means he'll never suspect me. Please, Jenna, tonight." She agreed reluctantly, voice shaking. That night, Ethan was in high spirits, pouring wine, setting the table like a man who adored his wife. But I caught him watching me in the reflection of the microwave door. Watching, measuring. Halfway through dinner, he leaned back casually. "You seemed tired last night. Did you have trouble sleeping?" My fork clattered against the plate. "Why do you ask?" "Just worried about you," he said, smiling, but his eyes were too sharp. "You know you can tell me anything." Anything except that I knew. I forced a yawn, feigning exhaustion. "Maybe I'll head to bed early." He kissed my forehead, murmuring sweet dreams. And for once, I didn't wonder if the words meant the opposite. Near midnight, Jenna slipped in through the side door, pale and jittery. She shoved the tote into my arms. "I can't do this. I feel like I'm being hunted." I hugged her, heart aching. "Thank you. I'll take it from here." She searched my face. "Promise me you'll run Avery. Whatever you're planning, it's not worth your life." I promise I lied. When she left, I stuffed the tote deep inside an old suitcase in the attic. Dust coated my fingers. My chest heaved with the effort of silence. And then I heard it, the soft creak of the hallway floorboard. I froze, suitcase still open. Slowly, I turned. Ethan stood in the doorway, shadowed, unreadable. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked softly. My throat closed. "No, just looking for an old photo album." His eyes lingered on the suitcase. The silence stretched until I thought I might collapse under it. Then he smiled faintly. "You're sentimental. That's one of the things I love about you." He walked away, leaving me shaking the suitcase still open at my knees. When I finally crawled into bed, Ethan wrapped an arm around me like always. But this time, it felt less like affection and more like a shackle. And in the stillness, one truth carved itself deep inside me. The web was tightening, and if I didn't cut my way out soon, I'd never escape alive. By morning, my nerves felt scraped raw, like I'd sandpapered them from the inside. I couldn't eat. Coffee turned my stomach. Ethan left early with a kiss to my forehead and a line that made my skin crawl, "Don't forget Big Week." The door shut. His engine faded. Silence settled over the house like dust. I grabbed the tote from the attic, wiped the suitcase handle of prints out of habit, and drove. I don't remember stoplights, only the white noise of my pulse and the ache in my jaw from clenching it. Jenna met me outside a brick building downtown with frosted windows and a flag flapping against a pale sky, the District 4 station. She looked like she hadn't slept either. "I called ahead," she said, voice tight. "Asked for a detective I trust. Naomi Reyes. She handled my neighbor's domestic case last year. She believes women ave." The lobby was colder than outside. A receptionist buzzed us through a metal detector. I hugged the tote to my chest like it was a child, and we were walking into court. Detective Naomi Reyes met us in a small interview room, mid-40s, hair twisted up in a no-nonsense clip, eyes steady and human. No smirk, no doubt, just attention. "Ms. Collins," she said, taking the seat across from me, "Jenna gave me a heads up. Why don't you tell me everything start to finish?" I told her. I told her about the tea and the bitter undertone about the way Ethan checked my eyelids and never shook me awake about the box under the floorboards. I described the money, the passports, the photographs of women. My voice trembled, but I stayed inside the facts like they were a sidewalk over a canyon. When I finished, I pushed the tote across the table. My hands didn't want to let go. Reyes didn't touch it right away. She looked at me. "You did the right thing coming in today." Then she snapped on gloves and began to lift items one at a time, methodical, calling out each piece to an officer who typed notes and evidence numbers. Rubber-banded U.S. currency approximately. A pause 20,000 by quick count. 5 passports with the same photograph, different names. Photos, various adult females, candid, taken at distance. She held one up to the light and stretched her mouth into a line. "Do you recognize any of these women?" I shook my head, except there was a photo of me at my desk through the blinds. "We'll bag and compare everything Reyes said. We'll also run the passport photos through facial recognition against known aliases. You said there's a hidden compartment in your home." Under the bedroom floor, near the window, 3 boards lift up with a pry bar he keeps in the guest room closet behind a garment bag. Reyes looked to the officer at the computer. "Draft an affidavit. We'll seek a warrant on the residence for concealed documents, forged ID, financial records, controlled substances, and digital media." She turned back to me. "Avery, are you safe to go back today?" A laugh scraped out of me, brittle. "He thinks I'm asleep at night. He thinks I'm soft." Reyes's gaze didn't flinch. "Soft doesn't preclude survival. Here's what we're going to do. With your consent and the evidence you've brought, I can move quickly. If a judge signs off in the next hour, my team will search while Ethan's at work. We want to find that compartment intact." She paused. "But even with a box of passports, prosecutors will want something else. Intent. We need to hear him. We need him on record." "You want me to wear a wire?" she said, gently. "Only if you agree. We'll have unmarked units nearby. You'll have a safe phrase. If he becomes threatening, we intercede. The goal is to capture him admitting the drugs, the identities, and any plan to harm you. This isn't about drama. It's about making sure he can't walk out on bail and vanish with a new name." Jenna squeezed my knee under the table. "Say yes, please." I nodded. "Yes." Reyes exhaled like she hadn't realized she was holding her breath. Okay, Officer Cho will get your consent forms. Meanwhile, text Ethan something normal. Don't tip your hand. Tonight we let him think he's running the script. The warrant came back signed at 11:43 a.m. I watched through the living room window as two plainclothes officers moved through my house like careful ghosts. The floorboards lifted exactly where I'd said. The green metal box emerged like a bad magic trick. Reyes crouched beside it on a painter's dropcloth body cam, blinking red, and lifted the latches. It was all there. The cash, the passports, the photographs, and more a handwritten notebook in Ethan's angled print. Each page a meticulous outline. Establish trust, isolate, consolidate digital access, duplicate IDs, liquidate assets, final cleanup. My blood went cold at the last two words. A paperclip held a page titled Denver Timeline with boxes ticked through the present week. Thursday was circled twice. Next to it, transfer as accident. There was also a small amber vial and a disposable syringe in a zip pouch. Reyes held the vial to the light. The liquid clung to the glass like oil. "We'll rush talks," she said. "If this is what I think it is, it won't be tea leaves." They photographed every angle, bagged every item, reassembled the floor with the same care Ethan had used. When they finished, the house looked untouched. Rhea stood in my kitchen with a printed safety plan and a map of where her units would be. 2 cars, here and here, she said, tapping the curb on the diagram. "We'll stage a surveillance van on the next block with audio monitoring. You'll wear a low-profile transmitter, works like a pendant. If you say, 'I'm feeling lightheaded, I need fresh air,' exactly like that we make entry. If he produces a weapon, we make entry. If he blocks your exit, we make entry." "What about Jenna?" I asked, throat thick. "He's been watching her." "We'll put a car on her address," Reyes said. "And I'm looping in a federal contact. The name you mentioned, Kozlov, lights up a lot of dashboards." She placed a hand on the counter, then met my eyes. "Avery, you are not bait. You are a witness. We move when you need us to." I hadn't realized how badly I needed someone to say that until my eyes stung. "Eat something," Reyes added. "Keep your blood sugar up. Adrenaline lies about whether you're okay." I tried. Toast tasted like cardboard. I forced down half a banana and told myself that counted as fuel. At 4, Jenna texted watching from 2 blocks down. "If you need me to sprint, I will." I told her not to be a hero. She sent back 3 sword emojis and a heart. At 6:30, Officer Cho clipped the pendant under the collar of my sweater and checked levels with the tech in the van. My heartbeats echoed back faintly in the earpiece, proof I wasn't invisible. I took a breath and glanced around my kitchen, this familiar stage dressed for a new play. The kettle sat on its base, like always. The blue mug waited in its place. I moved it a few inches left and then back, which felt like reclaiming an inch of my life. Headlights washed the front windows. A car door shut. Keys rattled. I pressed my palm flat to the cool countertop to stop the tremor in my fingers. The lock clicked. Ethan's voice floated in bright and easy. "Honey, I brought your favorite." The door swung open. Ethan stepped into the kitchen like a man arriving at his stage. A paper bag swung from his hand, grease bleeding into the bottom. He kissed the top of my head, lingering too long, then pulled away, with a smile so casual it belonged to someone else's husband. "Burgers," he said, setting the bag on the counter. "Double cheese, no onions. You look pale. Did you nap?" I swallowed hard, willing my pulse not to hammer against the transmitter hidden beneath my sweater. "Yeah," I said, letting my voice drag like I just rolled off the couch. I lost track of time. Ethan's eyes searched mine. For a second, I thought he'd see the wires, the van, Detective Reyes, listening in through the quiet hum of static. But then he nodded, sliding the bag toward me. "Eat first. Big week ahead." I opened the wrapper, pretended to nibble. Grease coated my lips, making my stomach churn. He ate half his burger in 4 bites, watching me between chews. "So," he said, wiping his mouth, "did you think about Denver?" There it was. The word circled twice in his notebook, the line in his script. I forced myself to set the burger down. I don't understand what happens there. Why Denver? He leaned back, smiling, like he was sharing a secret only lovers should hear. Because Denver is clean, fresh slate. People disappear in Denver all the time and no one asks questions. My throat tightened. Disappear. Figure of speech, he said smoothly. Look, you've been good, Avery. You've trusted me. And that's rare. His fingers drummed on the table, precise, controlled. But trust works both ways. I need to know you'll do exactly what I say when the time comes. No doubts, no last-minute jitters. I nodded, though my knees were shaking under the table. I'll do what you say, but why the passports? Why the money I need to know what I'm stepping into? His smile thinned. For the first time, I saw the edge behind his charm. You're stepping into freedom. Don't overcomplicate it. Those passports, that money. That's how we make sure no one can trace us. You want to live in some suburban cage your whole life? Or do you want power? Avery. I swallowed, voice barely above a whisper. Power. That's my girl. His hand reached across warm and steady, covering mine. And you know what comes with power clean exits? No baggage, no ties. Denver's where we wipe the slate. You and me, brand new. The pendant mic under my collar picked up every word. I pictured Reyes in the van, jaw-tight eyes flicking to the waveform on the monitor. I pushed just enough. And what about me? Am I baggage? His grip tightened. Never. Then softer. Coaxing. But you need to prove you're ready. No hesitation. Thursday night we go. After the last deposit clears. After I finish wrapping up loose ends. Loose ends. My stomach lurched. What kind of loose ends? I whispered. He smirked, releasing my hand. Let's just say I've learned to tidy up. Women who don't follow rules, people who talk too much, they become accidents. You'd be shocked how easy it is. A fall, a car, an overdose. My skin crawled. I forced myself not to look toward the hidden van, not to scream, not to vomit. Just breathe. I'm not like them, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. I'll follow the rules. He nodded, pleased. That's why I chose you. He rose, walked to the sink and filled the kettle. My breath hitched. The ritual again. The tea. He set the mug in front of me, steam coiling upward. One more night of sleep. You'll need your strength. I stared at the cup. The bitter taste clung to my memory like rust. I couldn't bring it to my lips. My chest ached with panic, but I heard Reyes's words in my head. If you say the phrase, we make entry. I lifted the mug with shaking hands. Ethan leaned against the counter, arms folded, watching. The liquid trembled, nearly spilling. I set it back down and pressed my hand to my forehead. I'm feeling lightheaded. I need fresh air. Silence. Ethan tilted his head, eyes narrowing. Now, my chest constricted. For a heartbeat, I thought I'd blown the signal that no one had heard. Then, the front door burst open. Police, don't move. Ethan spun, eyes wide, a snarl ripping from his throat. His hand shot toward the drawer where he kept a knife. He didn't get there. Officers swarmed, shoving him face first onto the tile. The mug shattered hot liquid splattering across the floor. Ethan Price, you are under arrest for possession of fraudulent identification conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted murder. The rest blurred. I slid down against the cabinet, shaking so hard I thought my bones would break. Ethan thrashed, cursing, until cuffs locked on his wrists. His eyes found mine across the chaos. For the first time, the mask cracked completely. Hatred poured through, pure and unfiltered. Reyes knelt beside me, voice calm. You're safe now. Do you understand? You did it. But all I could hear was Ethan's voice, from nights before, whispering in the dark. You won't remember this in the morning. And now I finally knew I would remember every second. Forever. The house felt haunted once the officers cleared out their boots, no longer shaking the floorboards. Yellow tape fluttered against the doorway like a warning flag. My kitchen. Our kitchen looked nothing like home anymore. A puddle of bitter tea stained the tile, shards of ceramic glittered like tiny teeth. The air still carried the sharp tang of adrenaline, sweat, and betrayal. I sat at the table, hands locked around a styrofoam cup of water Reyes had pressed into my grip. It shook against my palm, sloshing onto the wood, but I couldn't let go. My body didn't know how to stop trembling. Reyes sat across from me, his notepad closed. His expression softened. His usual hardened lines, carved by years of chasing criminals, softened into something almost paternal. "He won't hurt you anymore, Avery. You gave us what we needed enough to keep him locked up for a long time." I nodded numbly, but inside I wasn't sure. I still felt him here. Ethan's presence clung to the walls, the corners, even to my skin. The echo of his voice replayed in my ears. "That's why I chose you." Chosen, groomed, manipulated, poisoned. I rubbed my arms like I could wipe his fingerprints away. "How long will he be gone?" My voice was hoarse, like I'd screamed for hours. Reyes exhaled. "The fraud alone is years. With attempted murder added, maybe decades. And if more victims come forward, he won't see daylight again." Victims. The word landed heavy. I wasn't just Avery anymore. I was part of a category, a statistic. But also I was alive. Alive when maybe others weren't. Do you think he's done this before?" I whispered. Reyes's eyes didn't waver. "Yes." The room tilted. I pressed my forehead against the cup. Cold water seeped into my hairline. I kept thinking I was crazy, that maybe I was imagining things. But now, "You weren't crazy," Reyes said firmly. "You were smart. You trusted your instincts. You fought back in the only way you could." A bitter laugh bubbled from my throat. "By pretending to drink his tea?" Reyes didn't smile. "By surviving long enough to expose him." His words sank deep. I wanted to believe them. But when I closed my eyes, I still saw Ethan's smile, confident, disarming the mask that fooled everyone. That mask had once been comfort to me, the face I woke up next to, the arms I leaned into. And beneath it lurked a man who looked at me not as a wife, not as a person, but as a pawn. Hours blurred into days. The story spread. Local news anchors called him a charming predator. Neighbors shook their heads in disbelief. Colleagues swore they'd never suspected. My phone lit up with messages, sympathy, shock, pity. None of it filled the hollow space inside me. At night, I lay in bed alone, staring at the ceiling fan. Every creak of the house made my body tense. Sleep rarely came. When it did, it was thick with nightmares. Ethan handing me a cup, Ethan whispering instructions, Ethan's eyes as the cuffs closed around his wrists. And yet each morning I woke up, alive, breathing, free. Weeks later, Reyes called. "He's not getting out," he said simply. "Bail denied. The DA's office is throwing the book at him. You should think about therapy, trauma counseling. You've been carrying too much alone." Alone. The word echoed. But maybe it didn't have to be that way anymore. I started small. I went outside. I let the sun touch my face without fear. I cooked my own meals, real meals with flavor and spice, no bitter aftertaste. I stood in the mirror and told myself, "You are not what he made you. You are not a victim in his story. You are the author of your own." Healing wasn't fast. It wasn't neat. But each step forward was mine. And sometimes, in the quiet hours when fear crept back in, I remembered something Ethan once said with twisted pride. "You won't remember this in the morning." He was wrong. I remembered. I would always remember. But memory no longer chained me. It fueled me. To anyone listening, anyone who has ever felt their instincts scream but doubted themselves, believe them. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't wait for proof that may never come. Your gut is your shield, your alarm, your truth. And if you're afraid, know this, you are not alone. There are people who will believe you, help you, fight with you. Sometimes surviving is the bravest act of all. So hold on. Keep breathing, keep moving, and never ever swallow the lies someone tries to feed you. If this story touched you, if you felt the weight of what I went through, share it. Maybe it will land in the ears of someone who needs it most. Subscribe, reflect, talk to each other. Because silence is where people like Ethan thrive. And your voice, your story, your truth, that's what breaks them. Thank you for listening.